Eric Harrison had the biggest impact in my life without a shadow of a doubt, because he instilled values into me that I still have today, that I'm trying to instill into my lionesses. From day one, he said, if you want to play football for Manchester United or be successful in life, you've got to work as hard as anybody else. And we trained three, sometimes 4 times a day from the age of 16 to the age of 20. And at times it was pretty brutal, and at times it was hard, and at times you think maybe you couldn't cope with it, but it was that character type building that I think stood myself in good stead for the rest of my career. Eric passed away about 2 months ago, and we've spent probably the last 2 months speaking to people asking us, what was he like as a coach? What influence did he have on you? And there is no magic formula to the work that he did or the work that Sir Alex Ferguson did. It was pretty simple, basic values that they thought was the most important, and they were absolutely brutal with us on those values. If we came into the training ground with ripped jeans, or we came to the training ground with a jumper tied round our waist, or not looking and presenting ourselves in the correct way, he would tell us if we didn't eat the right things, if we didn't prepare the right way. His values and his stickler for the detail was incredible. We used to train 10 o'clock till 12 o'clock. We'd then have our dinner, and then he would say, look, go over to the indoor gym, go and practice your kicking, go and practice your passing. We'd then come out at 2 o'clock and practice the individual bits. And then at night he'd say, why don't you come back at night and train with the under-16s? It was 4 sessions a day for 4 years. And people say to me now about the work ethic of that great Manchester United team. And we didn't have unbelievably talented players. What we did have, we had a work ethic was probably better than anybody else's, and it stood us in good stead. The first team coach I had was Eric Harrison, and then it was Brian Kidd. And I remember I came up to, we used to drive into the Cliff training ground, maybe 8:30 in the morning, and the pitch was set up already. The pitch was set up already. And then about 10 years later, I said to Kiddo, Kiddo, why did you used to go out so early and set the pitch up? He said, because when you arrive for work and the players arrive for work, I wanted you to know that we was ready for you, and that it was all prepared for you, and that it was ready to go. And I thought that was a fantastic thing. And it's little bits like that you learn then when you're going into coaching. I started my coaching badges when I was 24. I wanted to do it while I was playing because I wanted to finish my career and walk straight into coaching. I always felt that there was no shortcuts to be successful as a player or as a coach. I give everything in my playing career. I sacrificed so much to get every inch out of my body that I possibly could. And I felt as if I had to do that at coaching as well. There's no divine right. You can have a great playing career, but actually that means nothing once you stop and going into coaching. So I had to prepare, I had to do things right, I had to put the hard yards in. And I thought I need to start this early, because 24, I thought I was going to be playing till I was 36, 37. So I give myself 10 years to do as much studying as I possibly could. And an ex-player came up to me when I was about 26, 27 and said, you need something away from football. You need to have a hobby. You're too obsessed with football. But actually my hobby was actually studying and watching football, looking at press conferences, studying managers. When our season finished in the Premier League, I used to go with my wife to Milan, to Juventus, to Barcelona to watch foreign teams play and look at different systems for a week or two. That was my hobby. It's what I fell in love with. I used to record every session that I did, every session that the coaches used to put on for us. I used to write it down, I used to make notes. And I wouldn't say I'm technologically fantastic, so everything's with pen and paper, with different colours for different sessions. I wanted to be inspired as a coach. I started to watch every press conference that the managers would do before and after games, particularly after a bad defeat, particularly in big game situations. How were they? Did they look relaxed? Were they stressed? And I used to make notes of certain styles that certain managers used to have. So when I came to the end of my career, I wasn't scared of the end, because I was actually more excited about the next phase of my life, which was then going into coaching. Look, I played for some great managers, Sir Alex, Terry Venables when I got into the England team was unbelievable. Glenn Hoddle was a fantastic. His sessions were great. Tactically was fantastic. David Moyes was one of the best managers that I worked for in terms of he really taught me and I learnt so much from him about the detail of coaching. The sessions that he put on, the detail in his sessions, the fact that to transfer a session then onto a field on a Saturday, I thought he was absolutely fantastic. One of the most enjoyable periods of my career was working under him and learning from him, because he did let me into his inner circle. He did let me see him work, and I will be forever grateful for that. Managers away from the ones that I played for, the ones that I was really obsessed with was Arrigo Sacchi, the great Italian manager, 4-4-2. The way I used to watch his sessions, and now I still do on YouTube, I watch his sessions, the way he set his teams up, so disciplined. I used to watch the great AC Milan team, with the Maldini, Baresi, Costa Curta. They were a brilliant team to watch. I do really like Bielsa, the Leeds United coach. Now I've studied him. He's at Bilbao. Everywhere he's gone, his style is unbelievable. The way he likes to play football, the intensity of his work, the way he trains his players was probably how we was trained from the age of 16 to 20, but now he does it with senior players. His values are so strong, it's incredible. My favourite manager at this moment in time is Mauricio Pochettino. I've followed him for a long time. Since he was an Espanyol manager. His first game in English football was against Everton, and I played in that game, and I knew all about him. I knew his teams. The way that he gives young players a chance and an opportunity, for me, is everything that I love about him as a manager. And I like the way he handles himself. He's got a class about him. The players seem to engage with him and have a special relationship with him. So I'd say in the modern day, he's the one that I probably study more than any. I worked for a manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, that knew every facet of every player's life. So he could relate to every single player as an individual, which made you feel so special. His biggest skill was that he could walk into a room and without even speaking to you, he could see how you were. He could look into your eyes. He had a feel for it. His sense of how you felt, how the room felt was unbelievable. And that comes with not just knowing the player, that comes with knowing the person. I always think that it's like when you go home and see your mum and dad when you've left home, your mum knows how you are. She knows if you're sad, she knows if you're happy, just by looking into your eyes, by the feel of your cheeks. And that's what he was like as a manager, and that's something that I've worked incredibly hard on. And when my players come into the room now, I try and look into their eyes, I try and look at the body language. What I've learned, particularly since I became manager of the England women's national team, is that communication's probably the biggest part of my job. The way that I put my words across, the tone of my voice, my body language in the way that I speak to my players is so important, because every time I speak to a player, I feel as if I've got to inspire that player. I've got to feel as if I've got to make sure that I'm having an impact on them, I'm improving them, that they're learning. These players are under immense pressure. The expectation levels in the women's game is rising incredibly. And we've got to help these players perform when it comes to the big occasion.